is Nick Tulloch, the CEO of Mendell Helium. Nick, good to be catching up again. How are you?
Well, good morning, Mark. I'm very well, thank you. Hope you're well too.
Yes, I am. Thank you very much. So last time that we spoke, we were talking about getting the that well, of course, the Rost Well online. The big thing was your Broby water disposal well, which you tested, and it was performing much better than you thought. And I think you said to me that it was really just a matter of process to get the licensed or the permit to use that. So that's now been granted. So that was granted as expected, no problems, and that really, paves the way forward now for you.
Yeah, it does. I mean, we were never worried about it. In Kansas, probably similar to other states, you advertise in local newspapers your plan to use a well as a disposal well. The advert has to run for 30 days. People can object or make observations. We were always confident we'd get approval, but we now have the approval. I have to say the approval is one of the sort of least impressive pieces of paper I've seen, but it confirms we can use the well as a disposal well. And it's absolutely critical to Rost. We've always said and always known that Rost is going to produce a lot of water. So to get the gas out of the ground, we need to move that water, we need to dispose of the water. So for me, the single most important part of getting Rost online is having a disposal well. As you say, it's been tested, it works, it's now been permitted. That's the final sort of regulatory step, if you like, and we can start moving towards production. So it was an unimpressive piece of paper, but a big day for the company.
But a big one. Okay, yeah. Well, you said in the RNS there that final preparations to commence production at Rost are now underway, including the connection of Rost to the Broby saltwater disposal well, along with the installation of water tanks and a pump. So just give us a sense of now what's happening on the ground and when you expect to be effectively turning that on and hearing the gurgling and the gushing.
Sure. Well, I mean, the difficult parts are done. The difficult parts were getting that disposal well recompleted and tested. So done that. Getting a pump installed in Rost. We've done that. We bought an ESP, and that's installed actually underground within the Rost well. So the final stages are, I never want to say anything straightforward, but probably more straightforward engineering of quite simply connecting Rost to Broby. In other words, when the water is pumped out of Rost, it has to go somewhere, and we connect that to Broby. So it goes into a series of tanks. The tanks then pump down into Broby. I mean, some of the water will fall into the well through gravity. Some is pumped in. So we have equipment either on site or being ordered. We have a team ready to go. I say we've been sort of waiting for the moment of getting the permit in place. You can't connect and can't start using a disposal well until it's permitted, and we're not going to do anything clearly without the state's approval. So now we have that. It's rather like sort of ringing the bell for the first round of a boxing match. Suddenly everyone's mobilised, and we're getting equipment and people on site and getting that all literally put together.
So it's just a matter of basic sort of civil engineering. Everything's already ordered, already planned, and it's happening. Do you have an idea of how long it'll take?
First of all, it is relatively straightforward. I mean, we're talking hoses and pipes and tanks and a pump, a pump to make sure that the water comes out of the tank and into the disposal well. In terms of timing, I'm naturally impatient and always sort of wonder why this can't be done in 3 days. There will be a series of steps that need to be taken. So we're probably looking at a few weeks, a short few weeks. I would have thought, just to be on the safe side. Okay. It could well be a bit faster, but I think I'd probably rather guide people to say, it's the summer holidays, people go on vacation. Let's be sort of realistic about what's possible. But the message is there is nothing that's complicated. There is nothing now that's going to require further third party intervention. In terms of the state, it's now all down to us for getting the pipes and tanks connected.
Good. Okay. Excellent. I look forward to having that conversation with you when that is done and you can indeed turn it on. That's obviously a big milestone for the company, the big production getting underway there at Rost. But I think you're perhaps looking further afield as well. You mentioned in the RNS that the permit is bigger than the expected use case, and this could be used for sort of offset wells in the region if you're expanding your operation. So are you already looking at sites, identifying sites, or are you just sort of focused on getting Rost going first of all?
No, we are already looking at sites. We're already increasing our land holdings. Rost was never meant to be just a one well program. If Rost works as we think it will, then clearly the strategy is what about Rost 2? What about Rost 3? What about Rost 17? Keep that strategy going. We're also mindful of the fact that we're not the only oil and gas company in Kansas. We're not the only people looking for helium in Kansas. If Rost performs as we're all expecting, then other people start coming looking at the area. So we've had a landman in the field for the last few weeks looking to increase our land holdings, and we've started that process. We've already identified a number of additional sites we'd like to drill or recomplete old wells. So this is sort of the next phase over, well, if it's a few short weeks to get Rost in production, it's then a few short months to get the next phase of development underway. But the building blocks are already in place, and it's been our strategy for quite some months now to accelerate that. But step one, let's start producing from Rost. Let's prove what we say we can do, and then we'll start looking at new wells.
Okay, good stuff. And are you generally happy with how things are going on a corporate level? I know that each RNS sort of always says that same line, there's no guarantee we will complete this, but it's been going on for a while now. I know you're looking for an AIM listing as well, so you probably can't say, yes, we're going to complete this. It's obviously a disclaimer there, but generally, you're happy with how things are faring up?
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, totally comfortable. The disclaimer that goes in the RNS is an Aquis requirement, because technically, we are two companies. Mendell Helium and M3 Helium are two companies. So technically, there is a chance that for some reason we all decide not to do this. I would say the prospect of that is zero. We're very clear in the RNS that I'm chief exec of Mendell. I'm chairman of M3. The two companies are operating as one. We're operating the similar assets, same people attending all meetings. So there is a technicality of needing to complete the reverse takeover. That will be done when we move to AIM. There's no point in spending shareholder funds producing a lot of documentation just to complete the RTO and then do the same thing and produce more documents just to move to AIM. So we'll do them all together. So I'm afraid everyone will just have to put up with that disclaimer for a little bit longer, but it's a disclaimer. It doesn't reflect at all what's happening on the ground.
Okay, good. And just finally, Nick, quickly, if we can, on the Bitcoin mining side of it, we saw, of course, a lot of interest in that space just recently, and your idea was to use some of the methane, I think, that was perhaps not had much use case to actually run a generator to do some Bitcoin mining. So has that developed any further?
Yeah, it has. This is. I think this is an area that's getting more and more interesting. I mean, not just for us, but also for other companies. We sort of congratulate ourselves by being sort of ahead of the Bitcoin curve by sort of thinking back in the first quarter of this year, what can we do with the waste methane product? The London market has sort of accelerated into different ideas across cryptocurrency, and we've sort of come through that acceleration, but have continued to think on the same lines. Every helium well we're involved in has a waste gas, and that gas is almost always a hydrocarbon and almost always methane. And if we can't get value for that methane, if we can find a way to strip it out of the helium, which bluntly we're doing anyway to sell the helium, then why don't we use that to power a generator to run a Bitcoin mining server? And if we've got good communications and we're in good locations, and we totally are in Fort Dodge, we've got sort of a crisscross of main roads running throughout the region, it's a great place to start. But maybe better than that, just by putting our head above the parapet, we're starting to get different ideas come to us. And I don't want to run before we can walk, but there's other opportunities now beyond Fort Dodge that we're also examining. We've started conversations with a number of specialists in the field about just what the right thing is to do. I'd emphasize we've not spent any shareholder funds. These are all at the idea stage. But as we look more into this, I would say the opportunity is getting better and better. And the US is well known for having what they call trapped gas assets, where you've got big methane resources that just are not attached to pipelines or storage or any route to market. Methane doesn't have the same value over in the US as it does in Europe. And if you can find those trapped gas assets and repurpose them, perhaps for Bitcoin mining, you've got quite an interesting opportunity. So we're looking at a number of different things, but Bitcoin, I think, is becoming an increasingly interesting add-on to what we're doing. I don't want anyone to think that we're not happy with the helium operations. We totally are. I mean, I've just mentioned they're going exactly as they should be going. But if we can find a way to create a second business line, I think that's quite an exciting opportunity.
Okay, good. Well, you've sort of got us interested there, so we'll just have to wait and see, I guess, so we can see some of those ideas announced. But Nick Tulloch, thank you very much for joining us today. Of course, the CEO of Mendell Helium.
Fantastic. Thanks, Mark.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at StockBoxMedia.com. Thank you for watching.